We dodged a bullet last night with the warm weather. Of course, my yard is like a
Last week
castle.
When they were calling for the ice storm again on Tuesday, I was thinking, no, it can't happen. 3 times in a row. No.
Yeah.
Seriously.
We made it. Now we just have to make it through Friday. Friday's looking rough.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the ice is something that I don't want. My brother and sister-in-law in Oregon are without power and don't know when they're going to get it back. And they have a farm and sheep and chickens and a horse. So I don't know how they're getting water out there to them, but they had an ice storm and lost a lot of trees, and it was pretty nasty. Hi, Laurel. Hi, Sean.
So I got a text from Lauren that she was going to be a few minutes late. It's just 7 o'clock. I guess I'll call the meeting to order. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all join. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, I move we approve the agenda.
Second that.
I'm
Your
just gonna look
second?
at it. Yep, I'll second it. Meg Scata.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Approval of the consent agenda or meetings of January 19th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Meg Scata.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous of those who are here. All right. Audience of citizens. Anybody looking to speak with us?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay,
We're not getting anything yet.
okay, great, thank you.
I just,
Student representative reports. Who'd like to go first?
I'll start.
Okay, hi, Sean.
Yeah, so hi everyone, it's been a little bit, but I'd say we have a pretty successful return back to in-person learning, like full-time at the high school. It's nice having some consistency, going from virtual to hybrid. That was a little tough, but it's great to be all back. And I know that with sports starting, we're really appreciative to be able to practice with our teams despite competitions not really happening. And then we had a remote snow day last week, and I'd say that went pretty well as well. It was nice being at home, but knowing that we didn't have to make up the day in June. I think that's all I've got.
Great. Hi,
And
Justin.
hi, good evening. I do think Sean covered almost everything. The only thing that I would add is that recently the Student Senate worked with Mrs. Lawson at the high school to develop a proposal for the return of clubs and activities, if necessary, in person. So we worked out a set of guidelines to keep it COVID safe and determined that for those clubs and activities that need to meet in person to fulfill the extent of their purpose and their activities, or even would like to get in one meeting to officially welcome all the members and recognize their club, we wanted them to have that opportunity, just like the sports are having to practice and to kind of fulfill the return to normal. So we were happy to get that done, and we're very thankful to Mrs. Lawson and the administration for helping us to smooth those guidelines out.
Great.
Great.
Okay. Communication and updates, Superintendent.
Okay, I have 2 communications I just want to make sure that you're aware of and answer any questions about. First, I shared with you the February enrollment. It's located in the Google Drive. Pretty consistent. we're at 1270 right now. Any comments on that? Any questions about our February enrollment numbers?
No.
Okay. Then the only other thing that I shared with you for communications tonight is Meg and I were just talking about it. She learned about this at a recent CAS event, but the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents published this blueprint to transform Connecticut public schools. It's interesting. It's worth a read if you have a few minutes. What interests me is every one of these issues that they take on is, a multi-page dissertation to really explain it fully. So, some of the bullets in here definitely give you the 50,000 foot view. But when you think about these issues, they dig much deeper than is in here. But certainly, I think CAPS did a very nice job sort of summarizing and outlining some of the problems and challenges and potential and opportunities that the district faces. A lot of it loops back to issues involving inconsistent revenue streams and the difficulties of not knowing where funds are coming from, and how much nicer it would be if there was a clear, consistent, and forecastable revenue stream from federal, state, and having to do with special ed funding and EL and early childhood. But there were some things in here that jumped out at me that I certainly liked, like the advocating for universal preschool. I thought that was fabulous. I think a lot of the work that they throw in here in terms of supporting English language learners and beginning to take apart some structural racism and discrimination in our systems, there were some really nice things in here. I think that clearly they thought through a lot of the significant challenges that we have in Connecticut. And also, I did read through and want to know more about some of the recommendations they have for standardized assessment students take. There is a strong position in here that we reduce the grade levels, take grade 4, 6, and 8 out of the annual standardized assessment system and add grade or only test students in grades 3, 5, 9, and 11. I thought that was an interesting proposal. There's a lot that has to be discussed, and it certainly involves statutory language and policy and practice. But I think that they are starting the right conversations. So I would encourage you to read that. I thought it was well done, and it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Meg, what are some of your takeaways? I know you took a look at it too.
Well, clearly the blueprint is something that is, listing a lot of the things that we all face as school districts. One of the things that they did talk about was the testing and the assessment. And they even said this year going forward, they were talking about acceleration as opposed to going back and reteaching things that were missed. Find out where the kids are at and push them forward. They'll, then they can do the remediation later. So it was a really good, solid discussion. And it all comes back around to school climate and that policy that was developed a few years ago. And that was mandated that all schools participate in. And I think, when you talk about funding, that's one of the things that's on the legislative agenda from CABE, CREC. Everybody's interested in seeing that SPED is funded in a proper way. So it's a large conversation that we need to have, and I think it's a good place to start.
Agreed. So again, that's in your Google Drive if you want to take a read. They condensed some very complicated, tricky topics into some bullet points, but I think it's a good conversation starter with the understanding that any one of those issues certainly would involve a lot more discussion to fully understand it and talk about what those changes mean. All right, so let me move on to an update on our reopening. And as I've been doing, I do want to start with some of the recent transmission data. And this is remarkable. I mean, we know the numbers are going down, but it's shocking to me how fast these numbers have dropped. So I'll just remind you that on January 14th, we hit the peak at 70 cases per 100,000. which is a very high number. The most recent data reflects that Portland is at 19.2. So we dropped from 69 and change down to 19.2 over the course of 4 weeks, which is pretty amazing.
It is.
The other thing that's pretty amazing to me is that Portland went from the highest average daily case rate in the Chatham Health District to now the lowest daily average case rate in the Chatham Health District. Again, Portland is at 19.2. Just to give you some context, Colchester is at 34.5. East Haddam is at 27. East Hampton is at 24. Hebron is at 22. Marlborough is at 23.6. The entire Chatham Health District is at 26.2, and Portland 19.2. So that's impressive work, Portland. I think there's some really, really good numbers that reflect a significant drop in the daily case rate per 100,000. At the county level, Middlesex County is at 31.4 per 100,000. Hartford is at 34.6 per 100,000, and Connecticut in total, the average for the state, is at 36.1 per 100,000. So across the state, I think nationally, the numbers are looking really good. I sat in on a DPH call this morning, and the state epidemiologists and medical people that were there again are very pleased with how the numbers are dropping and curious about the drop and some of the things they're connecting it to. In general, they're seeing better compliance with some of the mitigation strategies, and things are going in the right direction. They are, of course, concerned about the new variants, specifically the South African and the UK variant, although we're asked not to call them those because South Africa and UK don't want to necessarily be tarnished with that name. I think we're supposed to refer to them as the B116, and I'm not sure what the South African one is, but people still call them that. So there is a concern about these new variants and how infectious they are. So that is a potential dark cloud on the horizon. But we are hearing from the DPH that it's now a race to get the vaccines out, and Connecticut is also doing well in that area. Right now, as you know, 65 and older residents can sign up through VAMS and get vaccinated. My mother got her vaccination today. I'm very happy about that. DPH is anticipating that essential workers are likely going to be the next group, and they're thinking sometime mid-March. Now, the vaccine supply is still the X factor in the state. It's not coming in as fast as we would all hope. But I heard today that there is guarded optimism that maybe even as early as by the end of this week, we may hear that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be authorized by the FDA. And when that happens, a whole new supply will likely open up. So there's a lot of green shoots out there. I think that there's a lot of positive feeling that we're heading in the right direction. Vaccinations are underway, the numbers are dropping, and people are doing the right thing. So there's a lot to celebrate there. Mm-hmm. In terms of the ongoing effects or influence or impact of COVID in the schools, since we reopened in the middle of January, I won't tell you the names of the schools because the numbers are so low. I don't want to potentially give away or identify anybody. We have had 7 instances of positive individuals in our schools. Now, these are positive individuals, a mix between students and faculty and staff, but the total number of positive individuals who since we reopened for in-person learning is 7. And the total number of quarantines of faculty, staff, and students that resulted from those 7 individuals is at 21. So 7 positive individuals in schools. We contact traced in each of those cases, and we had 21 students, faculty, staff who were subject to quarantine periods because of that. The total number of quarantines that we've experienced since we returned is 134. Now that's people who were exposed outside of school, but were subject to quarantine. That number includes faculty, staff, and students who are subject to quarantine periods. We are, of course, actively using the sub pool that we bulked up on during the period of remote instruction to cover a lot of those 134 absences that were teacher, faculty, and staff related. But those are the numbers as of now. And again, it's amazing to me the relation between community spread and the effect on schools. Since the numbers are going down, we're seeing far fewer instances of impact of COVID in our schools, certainly compared to when they were going up in the November timeframe when we got beat up pretty good. The good news out of all of this is that
Just a quick question, that you said the 134 total quarantines, is that include the 21, or is that in addition to the 21?
In addition to, yeah. So
Okay,
21
thanks.
that resulted from contact tracing in school, 134 that we learned about from people who are self-reporting. Well, obviously, if it's faculty and staff requesting subs and explaining, but students also reporting that, they had an exposure in a different place. The best news out of all of this I would end with is that since we've returned, I am not aware of or do not believe we have had any in-school transmission. So that tells me that we had 7 people come into school. Those 25 people were subject to quarantine. None of those 25 people tested positive. That signals that the mitigation strategies we're using are effective, and that we are doubling down on our efforts to make sure that students are wearing masks and maintaining distance, and we're sanitizing and cleaning. And generally speaking, the mitigation strategies are being effective, but we are watching it closely. We are obviously watching these numbers every day, and if we ever had an instance of in-school transmission, that would be an area for concern, and that would be an area for concern certainly in the context of new variants that might be more transmissible. So that's the update on the data side of it. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions. Okay, so some other things I want to, answer any questions about or make sure you're aware of. So the full reopening has gone well. I am delighted that all of our students are back in school every day. It is just, there aren't words to say how outstanding and wonderful it is to have our kids back. It hasn't been without some challenges. I do want to talk a little bit about that. So every season brings its own challenges. Of late, you may have heard, and I've spoken with some of you about some challenges that we've experienced because of snow, right? We all know right now there's a lot of snow on the ground. There's actually a little less now because it rained last night, but before that, there were large amounts of snow. The snow kind of caught us by surprise at Valley View and at Gildersleeve. At Valley View, it caught us by surprise because it cut down on the number of spots where people could park and created major jam ups at our dismissal at the end of the day. Drop off went pretty well. Dismissal at the end of the day when we came back full after the snowstorm was challenging. So I have to give some credit where credit is due. Our district security officer, Eric Judas, and Jessica and her team and I got together. We brainstormed and we came up with a new pickup procedure that doesn't have parents getting out of their cars and no parking. It's just wait in a line and go through. It takes a little bit longer to facilitate the pickup at Valley View every day, but Jessica has staggered the times and putting in place some procedures that have sped it up a little bit, but is certainly far safer and more orderly than what we were seeing when people were parking all over and then trying to get to the school. So it's not perfect. It doesn't go quite as quickly as we would like it to, but we have asked parents to be patient and continue to pick up their students. And of course, this is all required because larger numbers of parents are picking up and dropping off their students, which reduces the capacity on the buses, which is something we've asked parents to do. So we did have some challenges at Valley View with pickup. Jessica and her team has done a very nice job of addressing those challenges and creating a system that works. It takes a little longer, but it works well in terms of creating a safe and orderly way for parents to get their children. The other place that we ran into some hiccups was at Gildersleeve. There's snow on the ball field, and the only place for students to have recess is on the blacktop. What we found when we first came down is that multiple classes of students going outside without the ball field to spread out on became very difficult to social distance students when they were all on the blacktop. What that resulted in is that normally students at Gildersleeve have 2 outdoor recesses. There was a day or two when, to respond to that, students only had 1 outdoor recess. Ryan and I had some discussions about it. Ryan went back and reworked his schedule, and now we are assured that all students at Gildersleeve are having 2 outdoor recesses every day. It's just different now in terms of the times when those recesses happen, and certainly we'll go back to the old schedule when the snow melts and the ball field becomes available. So those were the 2 hiccups that are caused by a sort of seasonal adjustment related to the need to social distancing and the impact of snow on the ground. Any questions on those 2? Okay, aside from that, winter athletics is underway. I was just at a basketball game tonight. The boys team did very well against Old Saybrook. I want to make sure that I give a tip of the hat and extend some appreciation to Kate, to all of our coaches, and to our athletic coordinators, Joe Santaveneer, Michelle Ianello, and Mike Searson. They pulled it together very quickly and got the season up and going. I know it was a ton of work for them, but it is wonderful. It is so nice that we have students back in our gyms and getting their workouts in and being part of a team. So Kate, Joe, Michelle, Mike, and all of our coaches, thank you for all you've done to make winter athletics a reality this year. And you know, if I was a betting man a month ago, I would have been surprised that we got here. But it is very nice to see that our students are having this experience, being safe. Everyone was in masks tonight. It was interesting to watch how the referees managed 4-minute mask breaks during the game, but the guidelines are being implemented with the highest degree of fidelity, and it's great to see our kids back in the gyms. All right. Last one I want to end with. So next week, Stephanie is going to give you an update on the state of the budget in the context of the COVID-related expenses that we're encumbering this year that obviously we didn't budget for, and that we've had to put all kinds of mitigation strategies in place. You've likely heard by now that our allocation of the latest round of COVID relief funding was $312,000. So we have the opportunity to access $312,000 that may be spent at any time between now and September 2023. So it doesn't have to be spent all this year. It can be spent over the next couple of years. Right off the bat, we are going to need 75,000 of that 312 to pay for the online school that we're running for our Pvla. That's how much it's going to cost us if we have to run the Pvla through the rest of the year. I'm also going to recommend that we keep a good chunk of that funding to the side, because we're not sure if we're going to have to run an online school in the fall, right? We don't know if we're going to need to do something like Pvla next year, right? We didn't budget for it because, you know, we're not planning on it, but it may be a likelihood. If you asked me if we're going to have to offer a remote experience to students next year, I would say yes, we likely will have to. The reason for that is that while we're hearing that this is in progress, a vaccine for children has not yet been developed. Until a vaccine for children is developed, it is unlikely that we will be able to shut online or Pvla-like experiences for kids, because some of our students are medically fragile, right? What you'll likely see, if again, there may be a vaccine between now and September next year, but you know, who knows? It's likely that come the fall, what we won't have is a, hey, anybody can choose the PVLA for no reason at all, we may have some requirements like medical exemptions or medical needs for medically fragile kids. But even that would need that we'd have to provide some remote instruction for students until the children vaccine is distributed widely across the state and through all of our schools. So we do need to keep a little bit of that in mind as we consider how to spend this money. Now, I am a little disappointed with the governor's budget proposal. I just want to put that out there. The governor has, for the next several years, proposed a budget that flat funds our ECS, our Equalized Cost Sharing Grant. As you know, every year there's a built-in about 3% increase just based in cost of living, salary, and contractual increases. So anytime you flat fund a school system, you're guaranteeing a deficit because the year-to-year expenses are going to go up, but the state support for education is going to be the same. The governor has said that he views that $312,000 as the increase that schools should count on. I can guarantee you there are lots of superintendents in the state screaming to high heaven saying, wait a minute, that's not fair. We need that $312,000 to develop programs to respond to COVID needs, specifically catching students up and other challenges that we are just starting to grapple with in terms of putting things back together. So that was disappointing to see that there's no increase in ECS funding. It's flat funded for 3 years, and that the governor's budget says that school districts should look to that federal funding as the increase that would otherwise come from the state. It's my position that we need the ECS funding to be increased 2 to 3% every year, and we need the town to fully fund our budget so that we can use this coronavirus relief funding for which it is intended to do, which is supplement, not supplant our budget, so that we can build programs to catch students up and remediate them based on learning loss that occurred as a result of last March's shutdown and this year's experience. So more to come on that.
Can I interrupt and just tell you that that is one of the areas that everybody is screaming about, and it's a proposal which there may be public hearings about it, and that will be a call to our board members and parents that enjoy the benefits of our special ed monies to call and to complain and to make sure that that is funded in a correct way. So that's not a done deal, but it is disappointing that he wants to cut that.
Agreed.
To say the least.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, and the other comment that I've heard made is that Miguel Cardona now is the cabinet member for the Department of Education. IDA has not been fully funded by the federal government, and that's going to be an issue that we're going to see come up as well. So there's more to come on that. I don't think people are going to let that fly, quite frankly, without complaining loudly and maybe seeing a change. So we can hope. That's where activism comes in.
Yeah, we can also hope that the next round of federal coronavirus relief goes through, and that we would encumber additional money in addition to this 312,000. Right? I mean, there's that hope too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the update. Overall, it's pretty good news. We're back. Things are going well.
Mm-hmm.
That is good.
Good work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No questions?
No, we'll wait for
Charles on that?
Stephanie's report, and it is good work. It's good news and a lot of happy people tonight in Portland.
Okay. So we will move on then to the Director of Student Services.
Mute Dawn Davis. Oh, there she is.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
Yep.
So, seems like forever since I've had a formal report for you. I've answered a few budget questions over the last couple of months, but we've been really focused on some of those other items. So just to give you a quick update on our student services numbers, We are our student service, our students with IEPs, meaning students that qualify for special education, is at 213 students across the district right now, and that includes some students that are outplaced as well as attending magnet schools throughout Connecticut. We also have 16 other students that are in the referral process and are maybe going and adding to those roles as well. We have 87 students with 504 plans, active 504 plans in the district, and we have 48 students that are English learners, designated as English learners. Those are our numbers as of February 1, and they change every month as you hear from me on a monthly basis. An update, speaking of our English language learners, our EL students, as you remember, you approved a maternity leave for our current EL teacher. She had a lovely baby back at the beginning of January, and we've been lucky enough to find a substitute. She began with us a few weeks ago. Her name is Lizette Restrepo, and she is doing a beautiful job getting to know the students. She's able, she's working in all the schools, so she's got her roller skates on, and she's moving all about the district to work with our 44 students. And several of those 44 students are also learning from home through the Pvla. So she's got herself moving really well. The Lost Links test is the big test that comes in play for our EL students. Typically that's done between December and March, but this year, because of many districts were closed down and went to remote learning during the Christmas holidays and the middle of winter months, so they have extended the deadline out to the end of April. And for Lizette, it was a wonderful reprieve because she says, good, she goes, now I can spend a month getting to know my students, and then we've got 2 months to get everybody through the Lost Links process. For anybody that may not remember, the Lost Links is a proficiency test that's done with all of our students that are designated English learners, and they have to meet a 4 or 5 on a scale of 5 in order to exit that EL status. So we wish them well, not luck, but we wish them well as they move into that testing in March and April. We're going to go back to the holidays for just one moment. This update came from the mental health team. They did a beautiful job making sure, especially in this year, because we knew things were going to be a lot different around the holidays and all of the fun drives that we do and food drives and helping support the food pantry in town and all of that. So I asked them, as they created their piles of fun stuff in December, right before the holiday, to give me a bottom line figure. And I shared this with Charles back in December after the team shared it with me. And he asked me to make sure I shared it out to you guys. So it's a little late, but it's really, I want you to know these numbers. At the last count before the holiday break, they assisted 101 families with $8,455 in donations. And those donations came from everywhere. They came from staff, they came from families that said, we're doing well this year, but we want to help out another family. So they made donations to in either form of gifts or gift cards. Some community members that came forward that said they wanted to help out. So it was just really exciting to see that number. And also there was a fund drive done just to help the Portland Food Bank, and from Portland Public Schools, the total that was donated to the Portland Food Bank, in addition to what was donated to those families, was $3,433. So that's almost $12,000 right there that went out to the community. And that was monies that were just raised by the Portland Public Schools community itself. So that was just really exciting. I apologize for it being late, but we've had a really busy winter. The next thing I have on my report is ESY. Charles gave a little talk about what's going on with our in-person learning and students and families that have to opt out of in-person learning. We are planning for ESY is our extended school year. This is summer programming that's mandated through students' IEPs or their individual education plans. And that planning needs to take place now, because as we hold annual reviews and we meet with the student, the family, and the child's team, we have to build in if necessary the extended school year planning. So we have planned for it to be in person. I have and every indication that it should be able to be in person. What may be the obstacle is if we still have to require at home or non in person for some of our students. So we're going to have a very fluid plan as we move forward. That will be the month of July, beginning July 6th and ending on July 29th. And this service that I'm talking about is only extended school year as mandated by a student's IEP. So anything else we may be talking about doing as a district, supporting any learning lags that we may have found, or just continuing access to learning activities through the summer for all students or for other students at risk. That stuff we're in the process of discussing, and we'll have more information on that in the month or two to follow. But this right now, I just want you to be aware, as we are planning for in-person extended school year for our students with special needs. And we make those dates known to families so they can plan their vacations around that and make sure that we have kids that are getting the services that they need during the summer to prevent learning loss and to prevent regression. And then the last thing is just an overall statement about our mental health team and the work that they continue to do. Remember, that was one of our big initiatives this year, is to make sure when we did come back to school, or as we came back to school, that our mental health was being supported. And that includes staff, students, families, all ways that we can possibly make sure that everybody's coming back after this tremendous upset to come back and be the best that we can be, either in school or for kids that are learning from home, those students as well. So for example, today during our PD day, I know Eric's going to talk about the whole programs that went on across the district, but we did have a small subset of staff that worked with their building level behavioral survey teams, just continuing to work with Mari Wrightington as a consultant, and the principals and their teams met with her, and we had an elementary group, and then we had a secondary group that just continued to work on the process of how we support students that need that support on a tier 1, 2, or even 3, tier 3 basis. So that work continues, and we'll continue to work with Mari through the end of the year. So that concludes my report. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I talked just the right amount. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. I'll be on if you have questions as we move on.
Thanks, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Director of Curriculum, Instruction and Technology. Hi, Eric.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. I'm going to try to speak. I'm going to try to beat Dawn and be a little bit more efficient, even though she didn't go on too long. And you know, brevity's not my strong suit, so I'm up for the challenge. So I sent to the Board of Ed members tonight several documents that I'm going to reference in my update. And while those would typically be part of our normal board packet, I sent them tonight because they are as current as today, and they were documents that were being finalized ahead of our district PD day today. So I'll talk about those in a moment. You're not getting any feedback, are you, on my end?
No.
Nope.
Perfect. All right, I'm using Bluetooth headphones that can be wonky sometimes. So I'll just quickly start with an update to Pvla. We currently stand at a total enrollment of 205 students. That's down from a high this year when we first opened Pvla of 220 students. So we're still north of that 200 number. We do have several students who are in the pipeline for possible return to in-person instruction, meaning that they've reached out and expressed interest in their children potentially returning for in-person classes. So typically the way that process plays out, the parents will reach out to me. I'll then quickly get the homeschool building principal involved, and then they'll take it from there, and we'll try to establish a date far enough out in the future that allows us to prepare a transition plan for that child, make sure that they're settled into their classes, they end what they have to end well in Pvla. And so we have a couple students, I believe currently 4 students who will be returning on the 22nd, and then a potential 3 to 4 others. So it's very possible and likely that my next update will have dipped below that 200 number for the first time this year, which again, I think is indicative of a drop in the numbers and the continued success of our mitigation strategies, and also that the ongoing challenges with home learning that, despite our best efforts, are proving to be a little too much for our families and students to handle. Nonetheless, we're glad to get students back. I don't want to use this language by hook or by crook or by any means back to in-person learning. We really believe there's no substitute, despite how proud we are of Pvla and the incredible work that our teachers are doing. I want to shift. Any questions about the Pvla? I want to shift our attention now to today's events. We had a district-wide professional learning day across Portland Public Schools for all certified staff. I've provided you with the agenda for today. I'm not sure if you had a chance to take a look at it, so I'm just going to summarize it. First and foremost, we gave our staff the option of working from home, which actually played out well given this morning's icy weather, and that could have been problematic. So we were able to start the day on time, we ended on time, and we got the full agenda in. Most staff took advantage of the opportunity to work from home, and it wasn't to the detriment of learning. I was present throughout the day in most sessions. I facilitated a few sessions, and based on the feedback, our staff were engaged, they were plugged in, and they really valued the day's learning. We started with a quick introduction and welcome message that I had recorded for staff that just explained our overview and expectations for the day. From there, staff watched part 1 of a 3-part documentary entitled Race, the Power of an Illusion. This is not a new documentary. It actually dates back to 2002. It was released by PBS and the California Newsreel. And it's really withstood the test of time as an objective analysis of race. And the episode that our staff viewed in advance of today's learning or this morning, if they chose, they were given the option. It was made available to them on Friday, and they could watch it this morning or ahead of time. Really posits the fact that there is no biological reality to race. It is a completely man-made social construct, a system of classification that's been utilized, and has unfortunately led to systems of racism throughout history. So we really started there with our teachers today. It relates to our work of equity and with our ultimate goal of eliminating achievement gaps for any students across Portland Public Schools, and starting with achievement gaps along lines of race, and that it helps us to establish a shared understanding and a common perspective around the facts of race, and the fact that race is a man-made social construct. It's linked. The film is linked in the agenda. I would encourage the Board of Ed members to watch. I'd be interested in running the session for the Board of Ed members the same as I ran it for the teachers today. I think it was an important kind of opening foray, an invitation for people to engage in courageous conversations about race. That's how we termed the day, and to establish that common understanding. Beginning at 9 o'clock this morning, our teachers engaged in 3 professional learning activities via rotation. They spent time in a 60-minute guided conversation that I facilitated about race, in which we looked at a couple tools that help us to engage courageously in these difficult conversations. And we use these tools to talk about race, to talk about our reactions to the film, and to really open up ourselves to these ideas, and with as much space as people felt comfortable doing their own personal experiences and backgrounds with race, although those more personal contexts are sure to come as we dig deeper into the work. From there, teachers engaged in a 60-minute self-guided professional learning module on a hosted website that's of really high quality about teachers as agents of change and a concept known as culturally responsive teaching. So in short, how teachers can make sure that all students feel a sense of belonging and feel that they're able to succeed and that they're respected and valued within their school community, and how teachers can embrace practices that help students to feel that way. The third session, our principals facilitated 60-minute sessions with their building staff, on which they continued pursuit of school improvement goals related to equity and inclusion that they had established from the beginning of the year, or in some cases that were carryovers from previous years. So the entire morning carried this through line of equity and inclusion, and we gave our teachers, kind of these bite-size learning opportunities that really kind of coalesced around this idea, that all students deserve equitable access to opportunity and success. From there, we took a short lunch break, and in the afternoon, we provided our teachers 2 well-being opportunities that we wanted to take care of our teachers, knowing how hard they're working this year and how stressful and challenging the year has been. Portland Middle School Principal Chuck Hershon led teachers in a trivia session. It was really fun. It was lighthearted. We had a lot of laughs. I think it was, just what a lot of teachers need at this time. It was team-based and it was competitive, but we were playing for pride, and it was fun. And a special shout out to Principal Hershon. He did a tremendous job with that. And then we actually were able to contract, using some title money, consultant from the Copper Beach Institute in West Hartford. That's a mindfulness and meditation institute. Her name is Tracy Hodes. She's a former teacher and social worker, and she led our teachers. We had 2 separate sessions of guided meditation. And we just advertised it as an opportunity for teachers to come, to clear their mind, to melt away their stress, to kind of reset, recapture some of that energy that they're going to need to continue the challenging work with the remainder of the year. It was incredibly well received by our teachers. Tracy did a tremendous job. I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a lasting partnership with the Copper Beach Institute. They offer a type of well-being, professional learning, and professional learning opportunities for our teachers that are just unmatched in the area. They're a long-standing organization. I'm very proud of the opportunity we had to partner with them. Overall, the day was very well received by teachers. We put out a feedback survey. I've been going through it with a big smile on my face all afternoon, just knowing how much this day meant to our teachers. That, the learning really resonated, as well as the well-being activities we planned for them in the afternoon. So that was a look at our PD day. Again, I've made those documents and the resources from today available to board members through the email I sent earlier. Today was also a very, very proud day for Portland Public Schools, in that we officially announced to our district staff, all district staff via email, the formation of our Portland Public Schools Equity and Inclusion Coalition. I've provided that announcement to Board of Ed members as well. We will be going public to the town of Portland this week, blasting that announcement out in as many channels as possible. And we've started recruitment efforts for this coalition via an embedded Google form within the announcement. We're ultimately looking for about 25 individuals that represent persons from across our community in different roles, including students and including Board of Education members. So we are looking for 1 to 2 Board of Education members to join our coalition. We've got an established meeting schedule. It will be the 2nd Tuesday of every month, which does not interfere with Board of Education meetings. Our meetings will run 4:30 to 7 p.m. We've been fortunate to contract with the Connecticut Center for School Change to help us launch this coalition and to help facilitate our first couple of meetings. And we are scheduled for our first meeting on March 9th at 4:30 p.m. And of course, until further notice, all meetings will be conducted virtually. So Board of Education members, I urge you to read that announcement. If it's an opportunity that you'd be interested in, like I said, we'd love to have 1 or 2 Board of Education members on the coalition. And again, we'll be blasting that announcement out far and wide on every available channel to Portland at large, and hoping to recruit from our community as such. Just one other thing, my last update is not too far ahead. Within a month's time, we have another district-wide PD day on March 12th. We will be continuing engaging our staff in conversations about race and equity on that date. Additionally, the Connecticut State Department of Education partnered with our Regional Education Service Centers, or our RESCs. CREC is the one that we belong to in this area, of course, to offer districts completely free blended learning, professional learning. And what blended learning basically is making sure that we're using technology efficiently, effectively, and meaningfully in instruction. So we know that right now we're using technology as needs must given the pandemic, but we're ultimately going to emerge from this period. And we want to make sure that we continue to use technology and improve our use of technology so that we're doing it in ways that are meaningful and that impact student achievement to the greatest extent possible. So I applied for this opportunity through our RESC. We've been awarded 5 what they call coaching days, which are basically free professional learning and professional consultation. I've been working already with our consultant from CREC with the goal of establishing in Portland Public Schools a defined blended learning framework that includes how, why, when, and where we use technology to support and enhance instruction. So we're really excited about that work. More information to come, and that will comprise a large piece of our PD on March 12th, which is timely, as hopefully come March 12th, our teachers will be vaccinated or on the road to being vaccinated, and we'll be talking about the end of the pandemic really truly being in sight. That's my update for the board tonight. Happy to take any questions.
I have two questions. Where do you go from here? And does the coalition that you are putting together, is that going to address ongoing training for teachers and then moving it to the student level? Because,
Great.
you know,
Yeah.
clearly this is a good
Great.
beginning, but cultural competence is not just looking and seeing that somebody's different, but acknowledging the difference and then building those relationships, which are so important.
It's a great question, Meg. So, you know, in all the equity work we do, I made the analogy, you know, in today's learning that, you know, it's like climbing a mountain range, right? An endless mountain range. So you get to one peak only to find another maybe steeper or taller peak. So the climb will continue. The work is long. You know, this is the means to an end that we don't know what that end looks like, right? We can close our eyes and dream of what an equitable world may look like, but we know we just have to keep climbing, right? Keep putting one foot in front of the other. So what that means in terms of our work for the coalition, first and foremost, the coalition will work to develop a position or a stance on equity for all of Portland Public Schools. What is our position? What are our core beliefs about equity? And how does that serve as a guidepost or a frame for how we pursue equity work and the actions we undertake to improve equity and social justice across our schools? From there, with our consultants from the Connecticut Center for School Change, we will engage in a district-wide equity audit in which we look closely at our systems with the intent of surfacing inequities and injustices. So that's kind of the first part, is where does inequity exist, right? And we have to look strategically, and we have to look at in ways that are unapologetic in uncovering those inequities, and then making informed responses. And making informed responses is, how do we change systems? How do we change the professionals within our organizations to attend to our improved systems and to stamp out these inequities in day-to-day practices, most of which are rooted in unconscious or implicit bias, right? These aren't overt acts. And to advise our schools and work eventually with school-based equity teams to make sure that we're doing that work in a way that's sustainable and meaningful and visible to our students.
Okay, thank you. I would just recommend, I know you're going to have board members on your coalition, but I would recommend that the board members participate in some kind of a professional development along the lines of what you did today with the teachers. And so we can also examine our own implicit bias and have a greater understanding of what equity and cultural competence is. And I'd really like to see this become part of a regular agenda item where we're updated. The board, you know, needs to be directly involved in information, but also in participation. So I would make that recommendation that that happen.
It's music to my ears, Meg, and I would be happy to discuss opportunities for the board to engage in this type of learning. I'd be happy to facilitate the learning sessions or to help point us in the direction of talented consultants who could help with that work.
Right. Thank you, Eric. This is amazing. It's good work.
Hey, Eric, I know the town has a committee as well, or a coalition. I'm not sure exactly what they're called. How do you see these as being, and I know their focus is talking about schools too. How do you see them either interconnected, or are they overlapping, or how do you see that?
So we welcome a member from the coalition or from the Portland Town Coalition onto our school coalition. I think we want to work closely and in concert. I think the Town Coalition would provide suggestions that they would like to see our school coalition and our schools take up for action. And then we would take in those suggestions or those recommendations as a school-based coalition and decide what to move forward with, or the extent to which we move forward with those recommendations. But I definitely see our work with the Town Coalition being a partnership. The Town Coalition has an education work group ideally, I would like to see that education work group, I don't want to say absorbed by our school coalition, but certainly satisfied by the work that we're doing at the school and district level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's not, obviously it's not an antagonistic relationship, right? We're working together for the same goal, albeit maybe a little bit differently or with a little bit of lens, a different lens, but we take good information, good suggestions, good advice, wherever we can get it.
Good point.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
I
Thank
look
you,
forward
Eric.
to looking through the documents you sent us. All right, new business. I believe we have a motion regarding the transportation bid waiver included in our packets.
Yes.
So we're not to be discussing this in executive session, so I'll give you the update now. Stephanie Fergola and I have been going back and forth with our current transportation vendor, M&J. We've been keeping the personnel committee updated, but we've dialed in on what we think are some reasonable rate increases and are now working through the language of the contract. So Stephanie and I met with John at M&J. We read the contract. We got to a point where we're pretty comfortable with the language. We've now turned it over to Shipman and Goodwin and asked, they have an attorney and a paralegal there that sort of have a richer and deeper understanding of transportation contracts across the state. And they're going to take a look at it for us and give us any suggestions in terms of language in the contract that, we might need to change or amend or update with statutory changes or whatever. We should be getting that back, I'm hoping, within the next few weeks. So what we're asking for you tonight is, I included the motion in here, your permission for us to go to the Board of Selectmen and ask for a bid waiver. Right now, just because we get the bid waiver doesn't mean that M&J is a done deal. We still have a little bit left in the negotiation process, but this will put us in a good shape to be able to go forward and hopefully wrap up that negotiation and then get the contract back to the personnel committee and then hopefully to the whole board for approval. Should it be approved, then we can move forward without having to put out an RFP more widely.
I'm happy to make that motion if we're there.
Okay, yeah, I think we are.
All right, I'll make the motion to request from the Board of Selectmen a bid waiver for the Portland Public Schools transportation contract ending June 30th, 2021, in order to enter into negotiations with the M&J Bus Company for a 5-year contract extension.
There a second?
That. I'll second that.
Tim?
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, next is class of 2021 graduation date.
I spoke with Kate Lawson today. Because of the 3 snow days, our last day of school is now Wednesday, June 16th. Kate and I would like to recommend that Wednesday, June 16th be the date of graduation.
I could
Why don't
make
we
that
make
motion.
Friday the 18th, because we know this Friday is probably going to be a snow day, let's be honest. We'll probably have maybe at least one more. So just to play it safe, make it Friday the 16th or the 18th.
We're no
Well, at this
longer
point,
adding-
all of our future,
Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
yeah, I think we were going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
All of our weather-related cancellations at this point are going to be remote learning days.
We're
So,
not taking any more days on that.
yeah, because we did the 3 snow days. The last one was a remote learning day, and if on Friday it's not looking good, that would be a remote day. So we don't have to make those days up. So the 16th, because of the special dispensation that we've been granted to make snow days remote learning days, we can guarantee that the 16th will be the last day.
Okay.
Charles, was there any discussion with the project graduation folks about the last day, just that they know that and they're on board too? I just know that they have a strong feelings about the graduation date and how that dovetails with their efforts for an activity after graduation.
Yes, Kate spoke with them and they're comfortable with the 16th.
Good.
And we're definitely hoping for an in-person graduation and an in-person project graduation event.
That would be nice.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Do
So
we Go ahead, Tim.
is we ready for a motion for this? I would make a motion that we accept the graduation date for Wednesday, the 16th of June, as recommended by the superintendent.
There's a second,
I'll second it.
Meg?
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Great. All right. Next on the agenda is the superintendent of schools mid-year evaluation. That information was included in everyone's packets, and I would just ask everybody to start reviewing that, and I think that we would be talking about it at our next meeting in executive session. Everyone has the
I did include, in addition to the rubric, the evaluation rubric, I included in your Google Drive. I know you've seen it already, but just as a reminder, the board goals, which are my goals, and which are the goals that are now every principal and teacher is aware of and we're using. So I look forward to your feedback, and I would encourage you as you start to do the evaluation, also bear in mind and take a look at those board goals, because that's the direction we're very much headed this year, and would love your feedback on those. And of course, I'm prepared to provide you any data, information, artifacts, evidence in terms of the work we've been doing this year in pursuit of those goals.
okay.
Just a reminder, this is only it's not a written evaluation, it's verbal. And I don't think we collect the papers usually from everybody. So it's not a written evaluation at that point. That's it.
Okay, old business, the 2021-2022 school calendar.
All right, so I would just remind you that the calendar that I put in here is not version 2, right? So we had some discussion last time about really a hypothetical, right? A possibility that if we are allowed to make next year's snow days remote learning days, if we would do that, and if we did that, would we want to include a February vacation in the mix? So, I think for now, we really want to publish a calendar, particularly one that has the start date, in at least the first 5-6 months of school, which wouldn't change if we are granted that dispensation. So my recommendation for the board is let's adopt the one calendar, version 1, that doesn't have the February vacation and assumes that all snow days would be made up at the end of the year. And if later on down the road, whether it's this spring or summer, we learn that the either state legislature or State Board of Education would allow us to make some, all, many, a few weather-related cancellations, remote learning days, we could revisit the calendar at that point.
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about the calendar? Ooh, I'm getting, sorry, is there terrible feedback when I'm talking?
A little bit. I think
What
all
is
of us
going
have it.
on? I hear a full echo of myself. It's so bizarre. I'm wondering about that winter vacation, winter break. It looks like it's starting on December 22nd. And I'm wondering, I thought in a typical year, usually the winter break didn't start until the 24th. So I was wondering about those 2 extra days, the 22nd and 23rd.
It usually starts the day before Christmas Eve or whatever, the
Or it
24th.
starts on the 23rd. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, I was wondering why the 22nd was the first day of the break, what the rationale was there.
The version I'm looking at has the first day of winter break on the 23rd.
Oh,
Oh, this one has the 22nd.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding. Am I
The
looking
one
at the
uploaded
wrong?
is the 22nd. I wondered too, it's a little longer than usual, but
It's just, if we had an extra day
We'll
built
have
in
to-
and there was a feeling of wanting to give folks a longer February vacation, then I don't know. I was wondering why it was there as opposed to somewhere else in the calendar.
I must be looking at the wrong calendar. Hold on.
just make the last day of school the 10th of June.
Sorry, I was looking at this year's calendar. So again, is there a suggestion that we make it the 23rd and then back up the graduation date a day or start the school year later? I mean, how would we, if that's the discussion here?
I don't think we're going to set a graduation date for June of 2022 today. It's just approving the calendar.
Right.
Right.
But I'm saying is if we made the 22nd a school day, would we make the last day of school the 10th of June? Is that the suggestion there? Or would you want to add another day in February?
yeah.
February. Add another day in February.
If you could make the 22nd a day of February, a day off for
Mhm.
staff and teachers, and then make the 23rd the professional development day, that gives families a 5-day weekend and it gives teachers a 4-day weekend.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I like it too.
So the idea is to start winter break on the 23rd, have the 22nd be a school day, make the 22nd a vacation day, and the 23rd the PD day. That's what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
here?
So those
February.
last 2 dates are February, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, just making
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, for me, this related back to your point at our last meeting about wanting to give families a longer chunk of time in February.
Yep.
I know we're not getting to this conversation and the state hasn't even made it an issue. It hasn't made it available for us, but I'm not completely convinced that making our snow days remote learning days is the right way to go for us in the future. But this seems like a way to get an extra day in that February break week.
Yep. Can we also make the 23rd of December a half day early release?
As opposed to a full day off.
Yeah. No, the 23rd would be a school day in December. Can we make it a half day early dismissal?
Well, right now it's a whole day off, correct?
No.
That's what
No.
we're talking about, putting back in December 23rd.
We'd
Would
put
be a
December
school
I'm
day.
23rd back
confused.
in.
No,
Oh, we were just
No,
talking
they're
about
talking
December.
about the
We're talking about the
22nd
22nd.
was the day we were talking about.
Right. December 22nd was on this calendar as a day off.
Right.
We were
So is it
saying
23rd?
add the 22nd back in and make the final day before Christmas break or winter break the 23rd. I'm suggesting that the 23rd of December be a half day.
Rather than the first day of vacation.
That the 23rd would
It would
be
then count as, it would count as a
it-
school day, and again,
right. But it just gives teachers, particularly because of all the holiday stuff that goes on, they can clear out a little early, clean out their classrooms and get out of there.
But in
Right
this
now, they're
calendar,
totally
that
off.
day is a vacation day.
I was gonna say they're off.
They're off.
Just feels like we're micromanaging here, Charles is.
Didn't this conversation start with the suggestion that the 22nd be I'm totally confused.
All it was
Let's-
suggested to begin with was that the 22nd be a regular day in school, and then we move that to February
Correct.
Right.
and push the professional day to one day later.
Right.
That was,
Right.
And you're right. And I agree with all of that so far. I'm just suggesting that the 23rd of December be a half day.
But
we
currently,
get-
the 23rd of December is the first day of vacation. So are you
right,
suggesting?
so they're off completely. I don't get,
So you want to add in another half day is what it sounds like, Meg.
yeah, well, which would count as a full school day.
Okay, well, I thought
think-
you were
I
gonna,
think what I-
all right,
Right.
okay.
Me too.
I think what I hear Meg saying is if the 23rd were a half day, it
Right.
would count as a school day. And then we could, use that day to either, add another day of February vacation or back up the last day of school till the 10th.
Right.
You would
It
have,
would give us some
be able to
flexibility.
do something else with the day.
Yeah. That's all.
But is there a reason oh, that feedback is awful. Is there a reason we would want to be getting rid of a half day of instruction somewhere else?
No.
For calendar flexibility?
No,
Wasn't this all supposed to line up with the state calendar at some point?
it doesn't
is.
have to anymore, apparently.
Well, I'm see, and I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but it didn't this year. I don't, because this year Middletown and Portland were off, and I'm not sure how that happened.
I don't think we're aligning, I don't think we have to align. I think you align with the rest that you are involved with, so we would align either with CREC. I think we align with the shoreline.
Right, that was the,
I
That
think
was
you're
the
right.
thing
So this
years
was
ago.
another installment in attempts
'cause-
by the state of Connecticut to align things that we tried for a year or two and then decided to do something else, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we ever aligned with
Just
Middletown.
checking.
Yeah.
Well, we have. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
This,
Not to-
in my
yeah.
experience,
Never on
I just,
purpose,
this
though.
year was
I
weird and
know.
I didn't know why. so.
Calendars, it changes every year.
So I brought it up last time, but I'll bring it up again, that the state has given us the ability to set our graduation date for this calendar that we're establishing. And I think that there's benefit to considering doing that now. I don't know if everybody else agrees to do that, that's an important thing to do, but I think that including that as part of our calendar is useful for families. It's useful for the folks who are looking ahead to start planning the graduation activities. And we have the right to do that from the state. So I think it's worth considering.
I think Charles was going to look into that, wasn't he, in terms of, I know that the law changed and we do have the ability to do that. I thought that setting that graduation date was something we did in the fall when school started, that not necessarily now for June of 2022. That was, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I would advise against setting it right now, just because, only because we still have to wait and see if we are allowed to make snow days remote learning days. And then we have to have the conversation if we want to do that, right? And if there's a decision that we don't want to make snow days remote learning days, that we want to make all weather events snow days, on average, we get anywhere from 5 to 7 generally snow days a year, right? And that would be tough. That's a whole almost potential for a week and a half between the day we would have graduation and the last day of school. And I want to, that seems like a lot, especially with, it's a lot. That could jam up, particularly some of our AP teachers and others, as
Right.
they, cover the required amount of content to get the
I don't think
students
we-
through.
even with the ability to set the graduation date earlier, we've never done it an entire year in advance. There's just too many variables, I think, to do it now. We certainly can set it a lot earlier than we used to be able to, which was like in early spring.
Right.
But I think it's too early to do that now. Certainly, if once we establish the calendar for the school year, parents would have a general idea of when, within a few days graduation would be. But I think it's too early to set the date.
I'm looking at the
I agree,
law
Sharon.
right now. I'm looking at the law and there are A, B, C, D. I'm looking at C. I can send this to everybody, but it basically says that beginning with graduating classes in 2021, for each graduating class thereafter, no regional or local board of education shall permit any student to graduate from high school and grant a diploma unless they've gotten a minimum of credits. It goes on and on and on. And if we're cutting school short by 10 or 15 days and kids aren't finishing their coursework, and I know we say seniors sometimes, are pretty much done by the beginning of June. I think we would be cutting our noses off to spite ourselves. I think we shouldn't set a graduation date until we further examine this, this law. It's complicated. It's not just a simple, you can set it at 180 days. I'll send this to everybody.
And I still have a very clear memory of the year that we had the October snowstorm and the hurricane and the snow days. I mean, that year, I think it was 2014, we went to school until June 30th. I mean, that was a bruising year.
Yeah.
Ms. Lawson, did you have something to add?
Good evening. My recommendation to the board would be that you select a meeting in the fall where you set the graduation date.
Right.
So whether it's the second meeting of October or the first meeting of November, and it becomes a standing agenda item as we travel year to year. I think that allows the planning for end of year festivities. It allows flights to be booked. It allows project graduation, because that looks a little different each year depending on the committee. Allows us to coordinate, and it will also keep it as a standing item so that it doesn't get away from us like it did a little bit this year with COVID.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, good point, Kate.
That's my thought.
Sounds good. So we should
Thank
add
you
it
for
to our
that
agenda
thought.
for October.
Yeah.
I think October or November is
Yeah,
reasonable.
because the requirement is as long as we set the date at the time we set it, that there's 180 days of
Yeah.
education. That's so by October, and then if you end up being a couple of days short because of whatever happens, it's, the law provides for that and lets kids graduate anyway.
Yep.
So with this calendar here, are we sending it back to the workshop, or?
If there's a consensus that we make the 22nd a regular school day, make the 23rd, make December 22nd a school day, make February 22nd a vacation day, and make February 23rd a PD day. I could certainly, it's only 2 weeks from now. I could take it and make it pretty and put it on the calendar to reflect that, and then have it done for you to see again. Would you prefer that I do that?
No, I think we can.
I think.
No, we should be able to vote on this tonight.
Yeah, I would make a motion that we accept the superintendent's proposed calendar as modified based on tonight's discussion.
Yep.
That's for the school year 2021, 2022.
2000, yes, 2021-22 calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is an update and approval of solar array installation at Brownstone Intermediate School.
Let me bring you up to speed on that. Is Carl Johnson on the line? Is Carl with us?
He was. Yep.
Dylan, if Carl's
He
there,
is.
unmute him and he can. Oh, great. Certainly,
Yeah,
he and I can give you an update. So we're moving ahead with the solar array at Brownstone, and Carl was arranging for an engineer to come out and take a look. Carl, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We got you. Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to
So
update the board on where that is and how we're moving ahead with that project?
Okay, so on February 11th, myself and our maintenance department electrician, Dave Steiner, met with the engineers for the project, got them all the necessary information that they were looking for, which was building blueprints, electrical room tour, information about that. They also toured the roof, even though it was covered with over a foot of snow, and got their pictures up there. They have everything they need at this point. There was one more thing that I'm waiting on from the company who provided the new roof, the flat roof in 2011, because I can't find any information on that. Just as to what it was made out of exactly and the specs for it. Their plan is to have everything moving forward, and the project estimated start time would be like mid-May to the beginning of June, and this should cause no interruption with the school. They would at some point probably have some machines there to lift the arrays and all the equipment for that onto the roof, which would be a day, but they wouldn't do that with a disruption of school. So then once they're up on the roof working, nobody would really even know they were up there. It's not like they're drilling holes all over the place or anything. So the arrays would be put into a ballast system that are just set onto the roof, and then they would carry all their wiring over across the roof and make a penetration down through to get it to the electrical room, which is located in the cafeteria area. So that is where we are at this point.
This has been a project that the board has been working on for quite a while, and it's exciting to see it come to fruition here. We would like a vote to, of course, endorse and support this project. The Buildings and Ground Committee has met and reviewed this work. And Meg, I believe you have a motion to that effect, if there's any conversation about it.
I do, if anybody has any questions. Basically, the agreement was signed by Susan Bransfield and Ryan Curley, the document that the selectmen authorizes on file, and that was done on December 16th. And basically, the Board of Education would be supporting to authorize the resolution of the Portland Board of Selectmen. The agreement states that the municipality intends to enter into a power purchase agreement with the CEFIA Solar Services Incorporated, which is the seller. It's a subsidiary of the Connecticut Green Bank, pursuant to which seller will install renewable energy systems at 314 Main Street, Portland, which is the Brownstone Intermediate School, which property is owned by the municipality, and the seller will sell the electricity generated by such systems to the municipality over a 20-year period at a rate of 0.73 cents per kilowatt hour, the PPA obligation, as particularly described in that certain power purchase and license agreement by the seller and the municipality. The agreement was entered into the town and is signed by Susan Bransfield and Ryan Curley on December 16th, 2020. And the supporting documents, which you all received, was including an email from Mackie Dykes, the Vice President of Financing Green Bank, December 9th, and he outlined the savings and the terms of the agreement. So that's the motion, if somebody wants to second it.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. I know it's a mouthful. I tried to get it down there, and the good news is that this is going to enhance the Brownstone building if future changes occur and we no longer use it as a school. So this is a good thing. It's really wonderful. And Laurel, you were on that committee, so thank you. And Chris, you as well. So thank you. We're getting there.
So I guess I don't understand. I know you read a lot of stuff, but what exactly is it that we're voting on? That
We're voting
and
to
that was a
support
lot. I mean, all of
Yeah.
that verbiage is a motion.
It is a motion because what we're doing is supporting Susan Bransfield. She's the buyer of the solar panels and is responsible for the financial, the payment of it. But it goes on our building. So we're supporting the Board of Selectmen engaging in this contract.
So,
Basically.
I mean, to me, that would be, that would be the motion, would simply be
Well,
the
what was
board is
confusing
voting
was
to
we got,
support.
right.
So I don't want, so all the, I can't vote on a motion. That's an awful lot. I'd have to read
Well,
that. frankly.
if you read the
understand what-
documents that were, well, excuse me, but if you read the documents that were in our
I have.
our Dropbox, that this basically essentially takes the first paragraph to summarize what the agreement is. So, but basically what I did was I condensed it, took that first paragraph and noted that the
Of
agreement
which
was already
document?
signed.
Because there's three
It's in the
different
drop,
documents. that
there are
in here.
3
There's the-
documents. You have the email from Mackie Dykes, you have the resolution that was proposed, and you have the document that was signed by Susan Bransfield and
So
Ryan.
which is the paragraph that
Okay.
you?
Hold
are-
on a minute.
You,
Hold
well,
on. Hold on,
okay.
please.
Yeah.
If you look at the it's a certified copy of the resolution, the Board of Selectmen, Tim.
There's 3 of them here. There's one that's a PDF file, and then there's one that's a Word document. It says resolution.biz.solar.pdf, and then there's.
I printed mine. I don't know what the files are called.
Oh, I don't print unless I have to. I read
So,
it on the screen.
The paragraph, if you read through it, it's the paragraph that starts with whereas, and it talks about the agreement between the town and the
Is it the one in the
organization.
brackets? Are we talking about the one in the brackets on there?
Sure,
The-
we can talk about the one in the bracket.
well, I don't know. I'm just asking, so I
It's
know.
the same in both documents, I believe. Anyway.
Yeah, but somebody wrote
I'm
brackets
going
on
to make a friendly amendment to the motion. If I could.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that the Board of Education vote to affirm and support the agreement entered into by the Board of Selectmen with, what is it called?
Solar Services.
CEFIA Solar Services, Inc. for the installation and operation of solar panels on the Brownstone Intermediate School.
That's an amendment.
Yeah,
you're making?
I would second that
know.
amended motion. That's.
Just trying to simplify things.
And that does. So, all right, we'll make sure Nancy gets the verbiage.
Tim, you seconded my,
Yes, I just did second your motion to amend that. Yes.
Okay, so the motion is amended.
any further discussion?
This is a really great thing, and it's an important first step.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm grateful that Susan Bransfield and that the Board of Selectmen have been able to run with this, and I think this is a very exciting step for Portland.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll move the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, committee reports. Curriculum?
No meeting today due to the Professional Development Day. And we'll be meeting again next month.
Okay, policy?
I guess our meeting will be sometime in March. There are some documents coming to you probably this coming week.
Okay, personnel, we do have an executive session scheduled. We'll be discussing some bargaining unit agreements at that point. Building and grounds,
We had a meeting last week and we reviewed the sightlines presentation again with John. and everybody was there, was able to see the thought process that went into it. They're also aware of the project list that was put out. And so we have some interesting things coming in March, and a kind of a timeline. We're going to put a timeline together of what we're going to need as far as information goes. But the committee is really a great committee, and I think it's working really hard to do this quickly and with as much information and data as we can accumulate. So the next meeting is March 10th.
Conservation and Renewable Task Force.
I think we heard it. We heard the update.
Okay. Correct liaison.
There's a meeting tomorrow, and they will be voting to, there's a summary. They're modifying the constitution of the Capital Region Educational Council, and board members who are paid dues members, myself as a representative this year, would be the governing body for CREC in the future. So they're going to vote tomorrow to amend that constitution. I don't know where it's going to end up, but we'll see. And so that's really the news. There was a legislative breakfast for CREC, and again, SPED, the governor's freeze on ECS, and also teacher recruitment for minority teachers was addressed in that legislative breakfast. And the good news is CREC has now got their third cohort of people that are acquiring certification that are of minorities, and they are working to get that certification. CREC is paying them, and they're going to be available to come into the school systems, you know, to be hired as full-time certified teachers. So it's a very exciting process, and they're hoping that the state will fund it and see even more high school students, you know, looking to become teachers as a career option.
Great. Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, the only thing related to us was that they had the request for the bid waiver last time, and they put it on hold because we didn't meet. So I see it's on tomorrow night's agenda. So it'll probably be voted on at that point from them.
Task Force on Solidarity.
I was trying to find the date. I don't see it here, but there was a meeting, I think it was last week or the week before, where we met on the survey that was done. And it was a good meeting. I went through the whole survey and the questions and responses, and it generated some good discussion. And then their meeting tonight, I couldn't be there because of this meeting. And then the next meeting is a forum. They're doing their Solidarity community forum, 7 o'clock on February 22nd. And they're asking people to put out, and they have questions and whatnot, to send those in advance, so people have they have a chance to develop responses for folks.
Great. Audience of citizens.
There's none at this time.
Great, thank you. Any Board of Ed member comments?
No.
I would just say that I thought that the information that Eric provided us, I hope everyone has an opportunity to review it. And I think that Meg's idea about trying to schedule a board retreat to kind of delve into those issues sometime this spring is a great idea. So hopefully we can come up with a couple dates, and everyone would be available to participate. So check your emails for that, I guess. Any other comments? Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of bargaining unit agreement discussions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing bargaining unit agreements.
And inviting Dr. Britton.
And inviting Dr. Britton, because we
I'll
wouldn't want
second
to
that.
leave him out.
Okay.
Right. I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. It's 8:33.
We are opening the room.
Okay. See you later. right, so back in. All right, so I would recommend to the full board. Oh, we have to unmute everybody. Hold on. Where's,
I
we
think
all-
everybody unmuted.
Yeah.
Everybody unmuted? Yeah.
okay, so
Okay.
I would make a recommendation to the full board that we support the Portland Educational Secretary Organization Contract Local 506 from July 1st, 2021 to June the 30th, 2022.
There a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would just, can we make an amendment to the motion that it's an extension?
No, because it's a
It's an extension to the
It's a contract
contract.
extension agreement.
extension.
Yeah.
Is
an
it
extension.
is what it actually says in the document is an extension.
Okay, all right. So then we just have to add that word extension. All right. Do we have to vote on it? So Tim
I
wants
think
to,
we did.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, Tim made an amendment and I'll second the amendment. So we're all in favor? All right, we're good. I'm taking the minutes anyway. And then somebody can
Okay.
just follow that same model and
Yep.
do it for custodians.
I'll make the motion to the board to approve the contract extension agreement between the Portland Board of Education and Municipal Employees Union Independent Local 506. No, is that the wrong one?
No, that's the wrong one. You want a custodial.
1303. That's what you're looking for.
Local 1303-144.
144.
144. AF, what is that? AFSME?
It's the American Federation of State, yeah, AFSME.
Yeah, AFSME. Okay. And, okay, custodian. All right, I can take that. All right. All right.
Karen,
I'll-
are you finished?
I think so.
All right, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in
Who said,
favor?
who was a second?
Lauren.
Oh, Lauren, Laurel and Lauren. All right, great. All right, we're done. It's
All
now
right.
8:46.
Good night, everyone.